What do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? And when you analyse it, you realise how irrational you can be at times.
Every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
It's not sales per se, but the outcome of it is because people get to know you, they get to see you.
Making those efficiencies to maximise service profits as well as just product profits.
When you lose the enthusiasm, that's the point to move on.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated, yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times. And only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through Scale Up Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk.
Hello, I'm Granger Forson. Find me at www.bizsmart-gloucestershire.co.uk or find me on LinkedIn. This time on Scale Up Radio, I speak with Bay Burdett, the founder and CEO of Bay's Kitchen. Bay's Kitchen is a business that designs and sells food products for people with IBS or needing the FODMAP diet. They're based in Cheltenham and have been going for 5 years. The team is 4 members strong now and already has 4 investors who support them on an advisory board. What is so interesting hearing about Bay's journey is how when she was diagnosed with IBS, she couldn't find meals that she could cook quickly at home, so she created her own. Then, following a challenge from her sister, she set out to help people like herself who have similar time-saving food needs. As always, we cover a lot of ground, including finding a mentor in your industry will help you reduce the issues that you face. Learn as much as you can about your industry at the start is a key as well as ongoing. And your personal story is a huge part of selling your brand, so use it. What I love about this conversation with Bay is how she's taken her drive to help people with IBS and turned it into a business. However, no matter what you think a business is about, the true understanding comes as you go about the hard work of building it and just having the resilience to keep going. I know you'll get something huge out of this episode, so let's go over and listen to Bay. Hello, Bay Burdett. Welcome to Scale Up Radio podcast. So please introduce yourself and your business to us.
Hi, thanks for having me. So I'm Bay Burdett, founder and CEO of Bay's Kitchen. So Bay's Kitchen, we produce free from IBS-friendly, low FODMAP foods for those with irritable bowel syndrome, so IBS, as well as other gut conditions and other dietary requirements. So we make products, things like sauces, soups, concentrated stocks, pestos, dressings, condiments, all of those sorts of things to add a lot of flavour back to your diet, even if you have to eliminate certain ingredients.
So give us an understanding of the business. How big are you? What sort of volume of sauces and all sorts of condiments that you produce and ship?
Sure. So there's a team of 4 of us at the moment, and then we have an investor kind of advisory board of 4 as well. And we've just scaled a few back actually. So we're at about 25 products now. And last year we turned over £550,000. And we started trading 5 years ago, so April 2018. So we just had our 5-year anniversary. did a big promotion for that.
Excellent. Wow, 5 years that's always a good point in terms of a journey of a business. You talk about making products for people with IBS and things like that. So you talked about 25 products. So do you manufacture? Do you outsource? Do you stock? Take us through your sort of business model in terms of how you service your clients.
Yeah, so we outsource most things actually. So the team of 4 of us work on sort of the back end of things, so the supply chain, logistics, marketing, sales, that side of things. But all of our manufacturing and warehousing is all outsourced. So we use one manufacturer to make all of our products, and then they're all shipped to a third-party warehouse who then manage all of our distribution from sort of one jar to a website customer up to pallets going into retailers, and also some export orders as well.
And in terms of, so you talked about retailing as well as online sales. So who are your customers, and how would they find your products?
So from a retail perspective, our main customer is Ocado. We've been with them since 2018, and we do really, really well with them. We have dipped our toe in a few different retailers, but for a few different reasons, it kind of hasn't worked out as such. And we've actually pivoted our business recently to focus on direct to consumer. So on our website, our Amazon sales, and still kind of including Ocado in that, where it goes obviously direct to consumers' homes. But those are our kind of 3 main channels that we're focusing on now and looking to grow.
So in terms of the marketplace, is it a competitive marketplace? Do you stand alone? What makes you different as well?
So what makes us different is the fact that we are focused on IBS-friendly, low FODMAP foods. So the low FODMAP diet's been scientifically proven to help reduce and even in some cases eliminate symptoms for those with IBS. IBS affects 1 in 5 people, so it's a much, much bigger problem than most people realise, and much bigger than celiac disease and gluten intolerance, dairy allergies and dairy intolerances, etc. But it's not sort of talked about enough. People are very scared to go and actually talk about their bowels and their symptoms to their doctors, so it's not diagnosed enough. And so we kind of fit this huge market, but that is very kind of underserved and not understood by many. So that's our kind of key selling point. And there's a huge market, but not a lot of competition. There are a few other brands doing low FODMAP foods, but much sort of smaller brands. It hasn't really gone very mainstream, but again, it's just a kind of lack of awareness and education at the moment. But as things are all sort of pulling round towards gut health, and that's become a big topic, it's starting to get a bit more traction now. And
so your customers are people that have IBS, and they're out there looking for solutions. How would they discover your products, or how would they go about doing that?
So we do a lot with Meta, so Facebook and Instagram ads, as well as Google ads, and we have worked very, very hard on our website, so working on our SEO so that we come up in Google searches. We certify our products as low FODMAP, so a lot of people these days, when you get diagnosed, doctors are actually telling people about the low FODMAP diet because it is proven to help, and it's something that you can then self-manage without need for medication. And so they're signposting people that way. So if you go looking for low FODMAP foods, if you end up on the company we use, who are called FODMAP Friendly, they're actually an Australian company, but they're the ones that certify our products. We're listed on there as a UK brand that supply these products. There's a huge amount of Facebook groups based around IBS and low FODMAP diets, where people recommend us. So, you get posts on there every day where people are diagnosed and like, where do I start? What do I do with this diet? And we'll get people recommending our products to them when they found us sort of online and things.
Yeah. And may I just ask, a FODMAP diet?
So FODMAP, so it stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. So it's a bit of a mouthful. It's not the best acronym in the world. But those things, as during all this scientific research they did, those things are basically short chain carbohydrates and sugar alcohols that are poorly digested in the gut, and so you find foods that are low in those areas. So there's 4 key kind of parts to the FODMAP. So you've got lactose, so obviously your sort of milk and dairy, your fructose, your oligosaccharides, and your polyols. So polyols are things like your sorbitols and your mannitols. So they're your artificial sweeteners that are ploughed into a lot of foods these days. And then the others are naturally found in foods. So 2 of the biggest culprits, and 2 of the foods that a lot of people take out of their diet and then struggle to reintroduce, are actually onion and garlic. Which very few people know that they actually would cause issues, and they are in everything. So it's actually really difficult to try and find any kind of convenient foods that don't have some form of onion powder, garlic puree, something like that in them, let alone all of the other FODMAP foods. So it's quite a specialist diet, but one that has been proven to work.
And going back to the beginning, you talked about you sort of make sauces and condiments, etc. So is that to add flavour, like your description of adding flavour to foods that have had this? So does that mean there are other people that make other things that people can eat that they add them to, or do they add them to natural ingredients, that they would be cooking at home with?
Both really. So the FODMAP diet isn't a gluten-free diet. And it's not a dairy-free diet, but they do kind of overlap quite a lot. So you do tend to find that things like gluten-free pasta is FODMAP friendly. So you could add our sauces to some gluten-free pasta to make your meal, and things along those lines. So, I mean, this all started from me suffering from IBS and needing to find convenient foods that suited this diet that I needed to try. And if you try and buy a pasta sauce, a curry sauce, anything like that doesn't have onion and garlic, let alone all the other different ingredients that are high in FODMAPs and can irritate the gut, it's nigh on impossible. And so that was what brought me to create Bay's Kitchen. So it's about making foods that you can't easily get, that are suitable for the diet, and those tend to be all of your kind of rich sauces and soups and pestos and all those sorts of things that we're making.
Okay. Now I understand that. We'll come to why you started in just a moment. I just want to explore just a little bit more about the marketplace. So the marketplace is growing. I mean, you talked about 1 in 5 people and more people getting, starting to understand IBS and how it's affecting them and the implications of that. So, how big is it? Is it growing rapidly? What's the sort of size of the market and what's the trends?
So it's, they used to say it was sort of 1 in 10, then they said it was 1 in 15, now it's 1 in 20, but there was a dietitian that gave me the stat that it took 6.6 years on average for someone to go and get diagnosed. And I mean, I was ahead of the curve. It took me 3 years to go and get seen by a doctor and find out what was wrong. Yeah. You tend to sort of, because it comes in flare-ups, when you're feeling really bad, you don't want to do anything. And then when you're feeling good, you kind of forget about it and carry on. So you just kind of live with it like that for a long time until it gets to a point where you realize you need to do something about it, which like I did. But apparently on average 6.6 years for someone to get to that point and go to the doctors and get diagnosed. So they think that actually it's a huge amount more than that. So years ago, I would say it was 2019, The IBS network and ASDA actually did a study on their consumers, and they found it was more like 1 in 3 that actually suffered with some form of gut type symptoms. So whether that was just, quite regular bloating, cramping, any of those sorts of things. So they hadn't necessarily all been diagnosed with IBS or anything, or any other gut disorder, but they had those symptoms on a sort of regular basis. So it's definitely a big market, but it's just very hard to pinpoint the exact number of people, because most people, well, a lot of people either leave it a long time to get diagnosed or don't get diagnosed at all.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Big numbers and possibilities in terms of doing that. But actually, it's an unfortunate situation that people, need that. But what a fantastic thing that you're doing to allow people to carry on with great flavors within their food. So you've talked about it already in terms of yourself as a reason why. So take us to that point of, realization that there was an opportunity here to build a business to help people that were suffering from this.
So when I was diagnosed, I was told to go and follow, I got given the word FODMAP on a post-it note by my doctor and said, this is meant to help. So this was back in 2015, and it wasn't so well known at the time. And so I went and did my research and was pretty scared by the amount of foods that you're meant to eliminate for a short period of time, only 2 to 4 weeks. You're meant to take it all out, and then you're meant to reintroduce as many of the foods as you can till you end up with your own personalized diet, because most people hopefully aren't kind of intolerant to all 4 areas of the FODMAP groups. It might just be lactose that causes you an issue, it might just be artificial sweeteners, etc. So you find your own limits to the different foods. But when I went to try and do the elimination phase, I was living on my own. I was working in a marketing agency, doing really long hours. You don't have time to cook every single meal from scratch. So you go to the supermarket and you start looking on the back of packs and just realize there wasn't anything suitable. Everything had these ingredients in that I wasn't meant to be eating. So I had to be cooking every meal from scratch. So that was part of it. Then when I was cooking meals, I'm not a chef by trade by any means, but I was making my own like pasta sauces and things from different recipes, but just without the onions and garlics, and you can pretty much use any other herbs and spices and things to add flavor. So I was experimenting with lots of different things. And actually, from not being a chef, I was like, some of these taste pretty good. And it's amazing how many other flavors you can add to your diet when actually onion and garlic are the 2 that really overpower things. And so I was like, right, it can be done. For all my research of the low FODMAP diet, I'd found all these stats about how many people suffered with this. So I was like, there's a huge market. There's nothing available. I was like, maybe there's an opportunity here. And then you think, oh, no, I can't go and make a food brand. And then it was actually my sister that pushed me to it. So she had, my nephew was quite little at the time, and she was weaning him on solid foods. And somewhere along the line, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning, probably, she was sat reading an email, and it was focused on Paul Lindley, who started Ella's Kitchen, a really successful baby food brand. And it must have told his story, I think, which is about him actually being a chartered accountant and had no previous experience of food or anything, but he had this idea round the kitchen table with his daughter Ella that he wanted to make a baby food brand with no, additives, no other nasty ingredients, just really pure food in accessible packaging. He was the first one to do the pouches you see them in now. And so I had this idea and went ahead with it and built a phenomenally successful brand. And my sister said, well, if he can do it, why can't you? And so it was challenge on. And so I actually contacted Paul, and I've spoken to him recently as well at our 5-year anniversary to thank him again. So I contacted him, and he got back in touch with me really quickly and sent me a whole load of interviews that he did about how he'd started his business and some of the pitfalls that he'd gone down to try and steer people away from doing those. And I basically followed in his footsteps to start off with. So he went to the University of Reading, and they are world-renowned kind of food research university. And so I went and contacted them and followed him down that route. So yeah, if it actually wasn't for him, I might not have actually got started. So I did contact him to thank him.
Brilliant! Wow, what a fantastic. So you got challenged by your sister. You found her through the article, and then reaching out to him, getting this mentor that gave you some good advice, etc. So you've got the idea, you've got the challenge, you've got the opportunity. So what came next?
So after I spoke to the University of Reading, they said to go off and do some market research. So I went down that route and realised that, yes, there definitely is a big market for these products. We should definitely go ahead. And then I started looking for a development chef to come up with the recipes. And on that journey, I met a couple of ladies who I didn't end up using for the development side, but they said, we're actually going to be judging at this new Food Founders Festival in a couple of weeks' time. You should definitely go to it. It sounds fantastic. It's completely new, but you should go to this. So I did. I signed up and got a ticket, and I learned a phenomenal amount about the food industry in 2 days. I was utterly exhausted at the end of it, but it was the most fantastic kind of 2 days that I could have ever asked for at that stage that I was at. It's still going now. It's called Bread and Jam, run by two people, Jason and Tara, and they actually have set up a Facebook group years ago, and there's thousands of people on it now for food entrepreneurs, called the Food Hub on Facebook. And through Bread and Jam and the Food Hub and the other events that they run, that's where I've learned so much about the food industry. I've made so many good connections. And even Jason himself, who set it up, said, it's amazing how much everyone's willing to share and help each other, even though you're in the same industry. You think people, oh no, I'm going to keep that detail to myself. No, everyone's so friendly and willing to share. So if you're in the food industry, I'd highly recommend those two. Look at the Food Hub and Bread and Jam as a festival to go to.
Awesome. So you've got a lot of knowledge now, and you've got this opportunity. So yeah, excited. How did you then make those first steps and make progress to where you are today?
So then came a bit of a pause, because it was about trying to find a manufacturer at that point. And that was a very hard task. And in the end, it actually took, so I went to that Food Founders Festival in November 2016, and we launched our first product in April 2018. So yeah, 16 months went by for the next section of starting this business, and that was all about trying to find this manufacturer. So it took 3 months, I think, of Google searching, speaking to people on this Food Hub, contacting anyone through Google that I could, to find a manufacturer that was basically willing to take a risk on a startup. So you've got no customers to sell to, really. They don't know that you've got any kind of money behind you to actually pay them for the first order. They don't know you're going to sell it. So it's a lot of risk for them up front to develop products and put that time and resource into you when they have no idea if you're actually going to come back with a second order.
Yeah.
So I found a manufacturer. I'm not going to go into it all today because it would take a couple of hours to tell you, but that between March and the August, I think, it was going very well. Then there was issues at their end with the company and the structure and things went wrong basically. And so I had to then start my search again. So I did. I started my search in the September, and it was in the December, I think, someone put me in contact with our first manufacturer that we worked with, who was actually, thankfully, luckily, local in Gloucestershire to where I live. So I started working with them, and they were absolutely fantastic and got us off the ground, made our first 3 products, and we worked with them for the first, I'm trying to think now, 15 to 16 months that we were going. And then it was only, they struggled, they were more of a jam and chutney manufacturer, so used to putting, you know, huge amounts of sugar in, so you don't have to worry about shelf life and preservatives and things like that, and we couldn't put preservatives in because we're trying to be very natural, and with the FODMAP side of it, you can't have all these artificial things. So they struggled a bit with the types of products we were doing, which weren't the kind of high sugar content ones. And so it was only for that reason that we moved to another manufacturer who was more in line with the products we were making. And we're still with them today.
Wow, lots of changes.
Yeah,
Space of time.
definitely. That was by far the hardest part, was the manufacturing side.
And you mentioned as well back at the beginning that you have an advisory board in terms of investors. So how did that come about, and then when did that happen? So
we had a need for fundraising, and I'm trying to think how we came across them. We came across a company called Spain Lindsay. It's still going now, but they've kind of gone on to bigger fundraising now. They've changed their business model slightly, but they used to be basically a bit of a matchmaking scheme for startup brands and angel investors. And so when we were looking at all different avenues, looking at crowdfunding, looking at all sorts of different things, but we ideally wanted an angel investor because they actually can bring more than just the money to the table. They've got their contacts, they've got their wealth of experience in business. So that's ideally what we wanted. And they put us in touch with our first investor, who's still with us now. And he was impressed by what we were trying to do, the just uniqueness of our business. He had a lot of experience in food businesses, but liked that we were doing something different. And so he got involved November 2019. And then from there, it was actually another of his friends he introduced. And then most recently, another of their friends they introduced. And then another investor, so there's 4 of them all together. Another one came from the same company, Spain Lindsay, introduced us to this other investor as well. So there's 4 of them now. I speak with them very regularly, and they are fantastic for the business in terms of advising on all sorts of things, just due to their experience, like I say, with lots of different businesses that they're invested in or have run in the past, etc. So yeah, without them, we wouldn't still be going, not just because of the money they've invested, but yeah, mostly due to the help that they've given us.
Well, that's brilliant. I mean, it's interesting. Investment so early on in a small business. I mean, I can understand in terms of, because you've got to put product on the shelf, and that takes investment before you can then start getting that. But you know, the fact that one's led to 2, led to 3, led to 4 investors in terms of coming along, they must really, in terms of what you're doing and achieving. So really well done. I mean, that's quite a unique story in its own right, let alone in terms of what you're trying to do and achieve. So yeah, and maybe one day we'll talk about the scale-up journey that we talk about. You know, and investment usually comes a little bit later on than that. So yeah, very interesting, fantastic. Yeah. So just give us a thoughts, a few things. You know, what do you think went right? Yeah, in the last since you started, and maybe one thing or so that didn't go well that maybe you could give some thoughts and advice.
Yeah. So I think going right is just our product range and getting ourselves out there. And I think a big part of it is down to my personal story and the fact that we're not just a big food brand trying to kind of capitalize on an idea. It was, you know, I suffer with the condition. I found this gap in the market. I want to help people, you know, find foods that they can eat and have a more easier, tastier, convenient life. And you know, we used to do a consumer show. Unfortunately, it is no longer running, but called the Allergy and Free From Show. And we'd go there and meet our customers in person, and we'd have customers come up and burst into tears at the stand because they'd finally found foods that they can eat and enjoy with their family, and they just want to come and say thank you. And that's what it was all about for me, was that awesome. I can create something that can really help people. And that's what I, you know, I wanted to run my own business, but I wanted something that genuinely actually meant something, and it had a real purpose and uniqueness about it as well. So I think that's definitely what's helped us go right, and it makes it very kind of shareable, and you know, when people finally find a solution to, you know, eating, which they have to do 3 times a day, they're very willing to share it with friends and family and things, and so that's been brilliant. Hard question. I mean, it's been a roller coaster ride for sure. I think one of the hardest parts has been the learning curve in terms of actually how hard it is to get your business out there, to find the right people who need you, to educate people on why they need our products at the same time as actually just marketing our products too, and things like getting into the bigger retailers, who are the ones that really help drive the volume, which bring the cost down. Before I started this, I had no idea, and you know, I'd be one of these consumers going into the supermarket being like, well, I've seen this brand, why aren't they on the shelf? And yeah, not realizing how hard it is to try and get a buyer to even respond to you, let alone agree to list your products in their stores and knock someone else off the shelf to put you in. And so yeah, just not having that kind of knowledge and awareness at the start and thinking everything is going to be so much easier than it actually was.
Well, I definitely think as business owners, you have to have that positiveness to be able to drive through, because maybe if you did know all of that, you wouldn't start a business in the first place.
No, probably. That is very, very true. Yeah.
And I just want to go back to your previous comment as well about, you know, people buy from people, you know, and your story sells as much as in terms of any good marketing, etc., in terms of doing that. But I also noticed that you were in marketing before you started this journey, and you know, businesses is so much about marketing, and really understanding that, you know, and I'm sure that's given you a huge background in terms of taking your business forward. So you know, running a business, as you really said, you know, it's hard work, you know, but you know, lots of fun in terms of doing that. So how do you manage your to not get overwhelmed by it all, and you know, what are your tricks and tips?
Having a good team around you is definitely very important. And I used to be completely overwhelmed by it when I was running it on my own, and you could quite literally never switch off. And when I brought on our first team member, who's still with us, fantastic lady, she used to work at Kraft, so she's got tons of knowledge and experience of working with all the retailers, working for a food brand and things, and she's just fantastic. And once she had settled in, the first holiday I went on, it was actually kind of during COVID, 2021, I think. The first holiday I went on after she'd settled in, and I actually didn't look at my emails for like 2 days or something. And you know, it had been 3 years where I, you know, and I hadn't gone 2 days without it, and maybe Christmas Day, other than that, I hadn't gone 2 days without looking at my emails. But to have that that team around you that you can fully trust to just take care of things. And I knew she'd just WhatsApp me a message if there was anything urgent or whatever. So being able to actually switch off is so important as a founder, because you tend not to. That's just how things go. But if you can have a team that you can really trust and rely on, that's just invaluable, really. And really has helped me try to get a bit of a better work-life balance than I did have in the very early days.
Yeah, brilliant.
Difficult, but yeah, try and get there.
So if you've recognised that the team around you is so important, how have you gone about selecting those right people, do you think?
I would love to say it's just through pure skill, but I think actually it's through pure luck. Having Lexi apply to us and being ex-craft, just seeing her experience on the CV from all the different CVs that we saw at that point, I knew she'd have the experience we wanted. And it's also about willing to work both ways, be flexible. So I knew I really wanted her, but I knew that she really wanted a flexible work where she has 2 young children, and so where she can work around things with her children and kind of almost work her own hours that she wants to work and things. And so that's worked really, really well for both of us. I've got her fantastic skills and experience, and I allow her the freedom to work the hours that fit around her home life. We have a marketing manager, Meg, who came on board a year after, and again struck it lucky that we found she was from a food marketing university degree at the Uni of Reading, lived reasonably locally to me in Cheltenham, and this isn't a requirement to work at Bay's Kitchen, but she actually has IBS. So she is really authentically able to talk to our consumers online. So she manages all our social media accounts and our website and things. So she writes all our content and our social media posts and replies to all our customers and things. But the fact that she has a food marketing degree and actually has the condition that we kind of specialize around has just been a fantastic help. So yeah, they I don't know, did we just strike it lucky that they both applied for the jobs that we put out there? I'm not sure, but it's finding the right people for those roles.
Yeah, we often talk about with some of our clients about finding people that fit, but actually people that fit actually are people that match your values and your principles as well. That's how people blossom and grow and really successful in businesses. It's when people don't match them, that's when businesses have problems with hiring the wrong people. So what you've managed to do is naturally find people that fit. My guess is that to fit your values and your principles, so actually they are delivering and taking the business forwards in terms of that. So yeah, really interesting, brilliant. So I guess you're all work from home type situations in terms of type places. So how do you all keep connected and ensuring that the business is doing the right things?
So we have always been a work from home business, but we hired a business development manager early last year, and she was based down in Haywards Heath. And so we have Lexi and Meg work for me, and they're both local. And that was just through we advertise locally, basically. And whilst we are a work from home business, I wanted to be able to meet up and train them and have the opportunity to meet regularly if we want to, sort of thing. So I did specifically look local. For the business development manager, we were looking for quite a kind of key set of skills and contacts and experience of, selling into the major supermarkets and that sort of thing. And so we decided, as we were a work from home business, we'd cast our net wider. and found this particular lady. And she was absolutely brilliant. We loved her. She left us recently for another role, but she was great. But it did highlight that actually having someone so far away wasn't great for the team dynamic, because the other three of us would be meeting up regularly just to have a bit of face-to-face time, and it is easier to go through certain things face-to-face than on Zoom calls and things. Whereas it was a good 2.5 to 3 hour drive for our business development manager to come and meet us, which wasn't a good use of her time, really. And so we have changed now and gone to trying to find local people. And actually, where I am today, we have a new office space that we've just got this month. It's not something we're going to be working from full time, but it's available full time, and we'll be meeting every week just to get together, collaborate, and it is easier to work together. Sometimes have our kind of weekly catch up and on what things have changed and what's going on with our stock and our sales, etc. So we've got the opportunity now to meet as regularly as we want to. So it's going to be nice having that flexibility to work from home or work from the office.
Yeah. And as a startup business, in terms of what you've been doing over the last 5 years, even with investment, how do you manage to keep on top of cash? Because cash is king in any business. What processes and systems do you have?
Yeah, it's that's definitely one of the hardest parts of the business. Absolutely. We are very focused on making sure our invoices are paid on time. So we do a lot of chasing of invoicing. But in terms of cash, we're lucky that we are a food company and our food is all 0 rated, VAT rated, which means that we can claim VAT back and don't actually have to pay VAT. So that helps our cash flow every quarter. We also, I'd recommend this to anyone that's developing anything. We go in for the R&D tax credits every year, and that's been a huge boost to our cash flow every year, where you can claim back not only the expenses of developing new products, and you can even go as far as marketing the new products you've developed, and work on the website to launch these new products and that sort of thing. But you can also claim for your own time and your mileage, so adding mine and my staff's time for all the different product development that we've worked on. So to get to a range of 25 products, we were actually at 30 at the peak, has been a huge amount of time. So we've claimed an enormous amount of money back through the R&D tax credit system, and that's really, really helped cash flow. But yeah, it's we've also worked very hard with retailers that we have agreed to work with. So in the past, we were listed in Morrison's, and we worked with them to get 30-day payment terms. And most businesses are willing, bigger businesses, so Ocado do it, but for smaller businesses, they will be willing to work on shorter payment terms because they know the cash flow isn't there, sort of thing. And Ocado have been absolutely fantastic from that point of view, and they always pay their invoices on time and everything. So I would always recommend, if you're a small business, to really play on that fact that you're a small business and you can't afford all the crazy marketing fees that Heinz and all these other big brands can, and your cash flow is tight, so you need shorter payment terms, and most of them are willing to do it. So that's really helped us.
Brilliant.
And then obviously our investors have helped us too.
Okay, one final question before we sort of sum up. What drives you crazy about the industry? If I was to give you a magic wand, what would you change?
There's probably two things. One, just from a personal perspective, change how buyers work, and try and I don't know, I just feel like with the unique product that we've got and the people that aren't served, you can't buy low FODMAP products in stores. I don't understand why it's been so hard to try and break through that barrier. and get them to take it is taking a risk, I guess, to know whether it would work or not. But I'd love to get that changed and be able to break through into that area. But the other side, I'd say one of the biggest challenges I think I should have mentioned earlier that we face is the cost of food products and the cost, how people understand the cost of products from brands. So it's kind of 50-50 of our business. Some of our, consumers aren't price concerned at all, and others are. But it's trying to explain that until we can get the volumes, so going through, the big retailers and driving that volume, our costs are going to be higher to produce a product because we haven't got the economies of scale that thousands and thousands of jars every second from the likes of the big companies, and then doing all of our certifications for gluten-free and dairy-free and low FODMAP all cost a lot of money. And then where we're not putting kind of cheap bulking ingredients like onions and garlic and cheap flavorants and things, we're using other ingredients that do cost more. Just using one example, coconut cream is a huge part of our mild korma, and we do that to be low FODMAP but also vegan friendly, etc. The price has absolutely rocketed, and as a small business we haven't put our prices up, we've sucked it all up. But I would love there to be just a bit more awareness, I guess, in the market of why small brands have more premium pricing, and it's not that we're making huge profits compared to other people that can put a jar out for £1 or whatever. It's due to being a small business and using kind of quality ingredients. But yeah, trying to get that understood is very difficult task.
Well, thank you for that. What a fantastic conversation we've had. We can't believe how the time flies in terms of that. Going back in terms of the passion and that came into your business, from the way you set it up, because it's personal around you. You found that need in that marketplace. You got challenged by your sister. I think that was fantastic. How you've then taken that idea, you went out to learn how to do it. You got advice from other people how to do it. You didn't just create it yourself. I'm sure that background of marketing really helped you in terms of that structure and that thinking, and how you've really sort of developed a brand and a following to actually help people and deliver that flavor sensation that they crave because of the FODMAP diet, in terms of how it's impacted them doing that. So it's been really fantastic to listen then about how you got investment from early on and how those investors have grown. They must love what you're doing, and to help you drive that forwards. And I really like the understanding that the hard learning curve that you have to go through as a business owner to really sort of get people to understand you and to educate them and to get them to get there in terms of doing stuff. And yes, you've naturally found people that fit your organization to help you grow and to take that time. That's really, really awesome in terms of that. So thank you so much for this conversation. We always finish with a quick fire round, if I may. A few questions just to sort of finish us off. Okay, so here we go. If you could go back to younger you, what advice would you give yourself?
I would just tell myself to have the resilience, and that's what you need to keep going, and that it will be worth it. The amount of times I've come close to giving up, but keep going, and you will get there. So have that resilience.
Brilliant, thank you. Which books do you recommend?
As a marketeer, I really like Simon Sinek's The Why. Yep. That's a fantastic book. I also really enjoyed Richard Branson's autobiography, and just his whole ethos of how he looks after his staff, and his staff will look after his customers, and that side of things. I definitely agree with that.
I haven't read that one, but it's now on my list. I know Simon Sinek, Start with the Why. It's one of my most passionate books. I actually reread it at least every year, so it's that important book to me. So onto your phone now. Are there any apps that make a difference for you?
from a business perspective, it's all the ones that that we use for our business. So Shopify, our website's on, Xero I use as accounting, Amazon that we sell on, they've got their app is actually almost better than their web platform. Google Analytics, I use all of these sorts of apps all the time, which are really helpful. I'd just say whichever ones are for the programs that you use for your business, I think should hopefully be the best ones.
Brilliant. What's some of your most successful marketing tactic?
If you can find an influencer that is aligned with your business and work with them, that can be gold dust. So when we were in our early days, we found a lady called Emma Hatcher, who we still work with today. She wrote a FODMAP friendly cookbook, and we collaborated with her, and our following just went boom, because she had such a unique following that she'd already built, so we still work with her. So it's finding people in your area that can help promote you. That's really, really useful.
Brilliant. My favorite question of all: who's had the most influence on you as a business leader?
Does it have to be just one person?
No, it can be more.
Okay, so I would say Paul Lindley, who I've mentioned today, Richard Branson, who I mentioned a minute ago, and then I absolutely love watching Dragon's Den, and all 5 of the dragons I find a true inspiration for how they've set up, run businesses, invested in businesses, etc. So yeah, I'd recommend having a look at them.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So finally, how can people get hold of you?
So you can get hold of me through social media or our website. So we are bayskitchen.com, or you can email me directly if you'd like. So it's bay, BAY, @bayskitchen.com.
Awesome. Bay, thank you so much for this great conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.